training will focus, right, on this resource mobilization as a strategic framework to optimize the use of resources and achieve organizational goals. As we had our conversations before, we started thinking of it will be a good idea to start by having this discussion about high performance organizations. And you probably heard this concept thrown around here and there, and people saying, oh yeah, you know, this organization is a high performing organization. And this is going to be this topic today, is we're going to just talk about that, get us all on the same page of what does that mean and why is it important, and why we want to spend a little bit of time starting out here. This is the definition. There is other definitions out there. This is one that we can use, where it says that a high performance organization is an organization or a company or a firm that consistently achieves better results than its peers over a long period of time. And the key here, right, is those things, is it has an adaptability to change, improve operations, and create value for stakeholders. And we're going to spend a lot of time throughout this workshop, not today, but throughout the entire thing, about talking and focusing on those things. For example, we have an entire lecture about an entire workshop on, for example, improving processes. So the idea here is that those organizations are really, really good at adapting to change. To changing, right? And what happens here is that once we can define and imagine what this high performance organization is, and we can all agree on what it is, then that allows us to have better, usually, conversations, because now we can all, for example, benchmark better. So, for example, we can say, oh, okay, this is the type of organization that we want to be like, right? And we want to aim towards it because we have this common understanding of this is what we're aiming for. We also tend, once we have this common understanding, we also tend to usually enhance our decision-making. The decision-making gets a little bit more informed. And that again comes from this idea that as far as those type of organizations, they understand where they're going, they have a clear vision, and they go directly towards it. So it just makes it a lot easier for us, right, to get together and train our people and focus on our goal and move in that direction. So it goes all the way from resource allocation all the way to talent management, process design, and much more. So we'll dig a lot deeper into this in a minute. So here is basically what people define as the main characteristics of a high-performing organization. And one of them is this adaptability that we talked about a second ago. So talk about this a little bit more. Let me just, okay, here we go. So high-performance organizations are highly adaptable, right? They embrace change, they learn from their experiences, and they're able to adjust their strategies and operations in response to changes in their environment. So sometimes what we do here is we try to get a feel for where do we feel our organization is at some of those dimensions, for example. So we ask survey questions like, or sometimes in-person questions of how, list or rank how adaptive do you think your organization is? And that gives you some information, right, from the people within this organization of where they believe and where they feel that they stand as an organization. So that gives you a little bit of a better feeling. Hey, is this one of those dimensions that we need to work on? Yes or no. The second one is efficiency. And I'm sure that is a concept that everybody talks about, right? So having efficient operations and processes basically enables those organizations to have high quality products or services, often at a lower cost than competitors. So that usually allows us to beat out a little bit our competition because we're running a more efficient organization. The third one, which is one of our favorites here, is that engaged employees. Usually those organizations are characterized by having very highly engaged employees who are committed to their organization's goals. They're motivated to contribute, for example, to the success of the organization, and they're able to work effectively in teams. And again, we can get that feeling from organizations a lot of times through discussions, surveys, and so on. The organization itself, or as managers, those are some areas where we can focus on, right? We can say, hey, if those areas, if we all agree that all those areas are very important for our organization, then those areas could become some of those areas that we're going to focus on. Try to figure out, okay, you know, how do people feel about this thing? How do people feel about this thing? Let's see. You just got something in chat to respond to. Okay, so and then there's leadership. So those organizations are characterized usually by having very strong leadership. This leadership usually sets clear goals, clear direction, and they encourage innovation, and they foster a culture of accountability and continuous improvement. And then they're always customer focused. So it's very rare to find an organization that we can say, oh, those guys are very high performing if they don't pay much attention to their customers. They usually strive to understand at a very deep level their customers' needs and preferences, and to make sure that they can provide superior value and service, right, beyond what the average organization would do. And then the last one is sustainability. And this is just this idea that we don't want to just focus on the short term, right? So the idea here is focusing on the long term viability and growth. So we want to be able to make those decisions and investments that support this long-term vision. So we'll dig a little bit more, but I want to give you one example. So one organization that is considered a high-performing organization is Doctors Without Borders. They are considered that for a lot of different reasons. So for example, leadership within them, within Doctors Without Borders, is considered top-notch. And the reason for that is they have this board of directors that leads this organization. It's composed of medical professionals who have experience in the field. They have
you have to access it from the net, from the DRE website. They are not giving them, but fine. And then the second.
Was he talking to me? Probably not, right? Okay. So they're considered, right, that they have strong leadership because they have those amazing doctors that are leading the organization, right? They have a lot of experience. They've been in the field. They have firsthand knowledge of the issues and challenges that guide the organization's strategic decisions. They also have a very clear vision, right, which is very simple and clear. Our vision is to provide medical aid where it's needed most. regardless of race, religion, political affiliation, right? It's very clear. It's easy to get people around them and people excited about this, right? And all their initiatives, you cannot grab any initiative without you being able to relate it and link it to that vision. And then this organization is characterized by high employee engagement, like we just mentioned before. For example, you will find that the doctors that work for them are willing to go almost anywhere, no matter what the conditions are, right? They were always working to be there. They're working hard. They do the best that they can, right? No matter how challenging the conditions are. So this commitment to the mission, right, makes engagement so high. And that's amazing to have for an organization. So another one is, and we talked about it for a second, which is this idea of continuous improvement and innovation, right? And they're characterized to have that they're really good at improving, constant improvement. They pick up on innovations. For example, during, if I remember correctly, I think they picked up telemedicine at a certain point, right? Because they realized that there are some areas where we don't have enough presence or we can't get there. So let's do a little bit of telemedicine that should help. They also came up with new approaches to treatment when it comes to tuberculosis and malnutrition. Again, from a very innovative perspective. This is our organization. We're going to do this differently than the rest of the world. We're going to find a better way to deal with malnutrition, for example. And they believe that they do it a little bit better than other organizations do, for example. And then the last one, performance. Another reason is this performance measurement thing that they have. They basically regularly evaluate, right, all of their projects to ensure that they are effective and efficient. They also have a very strong commitment to transparency and accountability. So they publish annual reports that details all their activities and finances. So anyway, I just thought to start you out with a little case like this that illustrates, right, a nonprofit organization, for example, just like their counter for-profit organizations, how they can embody the principles of high performance to basically deliver on their mission and hopefully make a significant impact. So those are basically those building blocks that we were just talking about. So strong leadership, clear vision, high levels of employee engagement, continuous improvement and innovation, performance measurement, and management. So any questions so far before we go in and talk about each one of those specifically? And what does that mean and what does it look like? Okay, so I don't. Yeah, go ahead, Jasper.
Yes, so I just want to find out, does that mean that with all the areas of high performing organization that you have shown, does that mean that as an organization, the organization must perform in all those areas for that organization to be considered as a high performing organization? Looking at the current context of how global business environment affects business operation and its sustainability.
Yeah, Jasper, that is an excellent question. So, so this is kind of like, yeah, this is a great question. So think about it like this, is those are different areas where we try to constantly improve on, right? So for us, for example, we could be considered as in the dimension of, let's say, continuous improvement, we could be considered as, let's say, an average performer. But on the other areas, we're so much above average that on an aggregate, we will be considered like a higher performer, a higher performing organization. So some of those dimensions might not necessarily be all of them as top notch, or where we want them to be, but on aggregate, we are functioning above basically average. And the nice thing about those building blocks is that it gives us something to work on and focus on, where we will say, hey, we want to constantly work on this thing. So for example, when we talk later about continuous improvement, we will have a whole session on this. Sometimes organizations get this as kind of like the flavor of the year. So they get a new boss, and the new boss is very excited about continuous improvement, and they start doing a lot of continuous improvement. This boss leaves, and then a new boss comes in, and the new boss stops talking about continuous improvement and starts focusing on, let's say, safety, and then we forget continuous improvement. And that is not good. The idea here is that those are some of the very important dimensions that we want to basically, hopefully, continuously improve, work on, no matter who the boss is. I hope this answered your question, Jasper. And if anybody wants to add to this conversation, please jump in. Essie.
Yeah, mine was a question, and it's not directly related to Jasper, so maybe I can come afterwards.
Oh, please, yeah, jump in now. Hold on, just 1 second. Let me ask Jasper. Jasper, did that answer your question? Is that good? Give me a thumbs up. Or...
Yes, it has given me the context within which I want to understand the issue.
Okay. Thank you. Essie, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so one of the key characteristics was strong leadership. And I wanted to know what we mean by that and by whose definition. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Essie. And I saw also a question from George on how, for example, how do we keep staff committed to the mission, for example? And those are excellent questions. So now we're going to talk about each one of those. So let's start, and then we'll try to answer those questions and have conversation about those questions. So here, let me put back the PowerPoint. Can you see that? Okay. So so let's start out with, for example, leadership. And by the way, you are all going to have an awesome session coming up soon on leadership. So this is just going to be one slide about it. You'll dig a lot deeper. In 1 hour, you'll be totally immersed into the world of leadership. But in the world of high-performing organization, this is high level. This is what they consider strong leadership to be. So for example, high-performance organizations are often steered by visionary and effective leaders who inspire and motivate their teams. That's one, so we get those strong leaders and we train for strong leadership. And those leaders are characterized by setting clear direction. They are characterized by communicating clearly and transparently, and they foster a culture of accountability. These leaders prioritize talent development and succession planning. And the idea here is that if I leave, the whole organization can't fall apart because I am gone, right? So the idea is, how do we build this capacity in the entire organization? How do we create future leaders that can come up the ladder and do amazing stuff for our organization? And this is what ensures the future success of the organization. Now, to answer a little bit more your question, a lot of time this is something that we have to agree on in our own organization. And we as managers and employees, we have to decide, what does that mean for us? What does high performance means to us? And that is usually where that conversation happens. So because in a lot of our cases, it's very hard to compare us to the next organization, right? There are sometimes, for example, in your case, for example, there isn't probably a lot of organizations that look exactly like you, right? Versus if I am a restaurant, right? There's a lot of other restaurants. It's easier for me to benchmark and compare to those other restaurants. So in a lot of times when we have organizations that are more unique, it's a lot harder. And usually that comes down to us, as the managers, to decide what does that look like and what does it mean and how are we going to work towards that. So does this help a little bit answer?
Yes, very, very much. Yeah. I like especially what you just said about us agreeing for ourselves what that looks like for our organization. Yeah, very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are we can't just copy and paste what other organizations do and say, hey, this is we're going to be like Coca-Cola, right? Or we're going to be like the United Nations, or we can't do that. So what we want to do is know what are the levers that we need to focus on. And here we understand that leadership, for example, this is over research over many, many years and lots of findings, finds that those levers are very, very important. So then we as managers, we will sit down and say, okay, then how do I reward for this? How do I develop this within my own teams? And how do I build it to get to the point that will make us feel that now we are at high performance? And you might consider yourself already at high performance in multiple of those areas. So again, that's something that and then that becomes, okay, how do we sustain it at this level, right? And it's high performance because I have Amy, for example, and Amy is just driven, and right. So I know leadership with Amy is really, really high. But then how do I make sure that if Amy leaves, then the organization continues to have that high level on leadership, for example, from even when Amy leaves to another organization. Sorry, Amy, I used you as an example, but yeah, so hopefully that helps. So vision, and tomorrow we'll talk a little bit about strategic planning. So we'll dig deeper into this kind of stuff. So vision and strategy. But research again finds that those high performance organizations usually have a very clear vision, just like we said with the example I gave you a second ago, that is well communicated and understood throughout the organization. So when you grab anybody in the organization and you ask them, hey, what do you do here? They usually can give you the answer in like a sentence, right? Not in a paragraph and not in like, a chapter, right? They can easily explain, oh, this is what we do. We help people, that are sick, right? We go to places where nobody wants to go, for example, or difficult places, and we help anyone, right? That's what we do. Very simple. And they develop strategies that align with this vision. That is a very important thing. You see managers, a lot of times what happens is because they're fighting fires, because they are so busy doing what they do every day, a lot of times we get a little bit distracted and we start doing other things that don't necessarily align 100% with that vision. And when we dig tomorrow into strategy a lot more, we'll talk about this, but this is what allows us to say no to a lot of other things. And as managers, we need to be able to do that. We need to be able to say, this is what we do. This is where we're going to spend all our time and effort. And this is what we're not going to do, because that does not match our goals and objectives, our vision. That is not going to move us towards our goal and our vision. And that's how we deal with resources, right? Because basically all organizations have very limited resources. And, I've never sat with any organization who said, we have just too much. We don't know, I have too much money. I don't know what to do with it, right? It's never like that. Every organization is like, oh, I have $1 million, but I need 10. That's usually the response. So how do we do that is by having this very clear, laser focused, right? Here's our goal, and that's how we're moving towards it. And then we can use all our resources to the best of our ability every single day. And then this idea about having regular strategic reviews, right? That is what allows us to remain adaptive and responsive, right? Anything could happen. And the biggest example of that is just COVID, right? Before COVID, we used to sit with organizations and tell them, let's do scenario planning. And the biggest thing that they could imagine is things like, oh, imagine, for example, we didn't get the computers that we ordered. Or imagine that our top leader quits suddenly, for example. And that's how they would run scenario planning. But when you tell them, no, let's imagine something really big, like a big disaster happened, that was very hard for organizations to imagine that and to deal with that, right? And now suddenly we had COVID, and now everybody can imagine, wow, what does that look like, right? So those type of managers train and work towards, okay, let's do scenario planning, and let's try to find different ways that will allow us to be responsive and adaptive. And again, it doesn't matter that much where we are on this continuum. What matters is that we know that this is something important that we need to focus on, and then we start working towards whatever goal that we set ourselves in any of those dimensions. And here's another one, because there was a question about engaging employees a little bit earlier. So this one digs into engaging employees. But before actually I move to engaging employees, let me go back to high-performing organizations from a strategy and vision perspective. Anybody has a question on what we talked about just now? Okay, so let's talk now about engaging employees. And if you remember any questions, please stop me. We'll come back to it. No problem. So engagement is another big thing. And again, we're going to have more stuff on this throughout the course. But those organizations usually prioritize their employees. So when you're studying high-performing organizations, you can tell. You can tell because they're talking so much about their employees, right? They focus on them. They recognize that committed and motivated employees are the ones that help us drive performance, right? So they are focused on that. They want to foster, for example, a fantastic work environment, right? They want people to go in, feel valued, feel heard, appreciated, right? And then when they offer ideas, that they are also empowered to make some of those decisions along the way. And that's how we try to bring up, right, and the level of engagement of employees. And then one big thing that we find, that research finds that is very, very powerful, is this idea about focusing on professional development and career progression opportunities, right? Within our organization. And that makes usually employees, again, more engaged, because they feel that this organization, my manager cares about my future, right? My manager wants to help me become better, right? And that becomes very, very important. So for example, attending a training like this, right? And having employees, for example, join, right? That usually, or open it up for different people to join. Again, that is usually something that is very exciting. It adds value to people's lives, hopefully, right? So we'll have, again, more on this later. But if anybody has any questions, please feel free to stop me anytime. I don't see anything in the chat or hands, I don't think. All right, and then the fourth block, I mean, if you remember, I'm gonna back up a second. Here we are. So we did 3 of those, and now we're gonna go to continuous improvement, talk about that. So this is a cultural thing, right, within an organization. So we are either focused on this idea of constant improvement, right? So for example, we do a course, we do a training, like when we do this training with you now, and we're gonna work with you, and we're gonna spend so much time with you. For us, it's an honor, and we are very excited and very lucky to have this opportunity. But we also take it very, very seriously, and we go back and review how can we do this better the next time, right? And we're constantly working on that. How can we do this better? What can we learn? You see, for example, today we have, for example, one of our faculty with us who wants to join in and see, hey, how can I do this better, right? How can I, or what are they doing? What are they talking about? How can I help engage, right, more? So those organizations usually are those organizations that encourage people to come up with ideas. They engage experimentation and new ways of doing stuff. And they tend to try to learn from success and failure. And again, those things are hard, because if I am working towards a deadline, right, it's really hard for me to pause and be like, oh, yeah, you do this thing that is not linked to this project, and I'm okay with that, right? It's a challenging thing for managers to be able to do, because again, we're all working towards deadlines, we're all working towards projects. So this will be something that managers, again, will have to sit down and agree and think through this. How are we going to foster this? And how are we going to make this happen within our organization in a way that is exciting, that will make a lot of difference, but still will allow us to get things done? It's not easy. But again, the idea here is that how can we constantly improve on what we offer? Now, some organizations do this totally in a way that they're totally excellent in it, but they don't really know, they don't even have a label on this. It's just because that's how they are as managers and as employees. That's their characteristic. They just like to do things better, and they are just very conscientious, right? So you find with high level of conscientiousness, you find usually this concept on continuous improvement, a lot of that gets dealt with managers that are very high conscientiousness, because they just want to do better. They want to try to improve. Let me see, I think there's another question here. Innovation closely related to risk-taking. Yes, that's excellent point. They must be allowing staff to make mistakes, fail. Yes, absolutely, 100%. And that is that hard conversation to have with our managers at a certain point. What are we okay with? What type of failure, right? Because that's the only way to learn. And you teach this in entrepreneurship. I teach entrepreneurship as well. So it's just like I tell my students, just like riding a bike. Why do we expect anyone to be able to ride the bike the first time and not fall down? Entrepreneurship is the same thing. When you build a business, most likely you're going to fail a few times. The same thing, innovation is the same thing. But how do we do this in a way that is not disruptive to our organization and not disruptive to us getting things done? That is the art, right? That is where the managers will sit down and have those conversations. And a lot of times it's not something we solve over one cup of lemon tea, for example, right? Or one cup of coffee, or one cup, right? A lot of times we have to sit down and go over this a number of times. And then this is the last block, which is performance measurement. And this is very interesting, is that, okay, how do we measure our performance? So those organizations usually are characterized by the fact that they use insights to identify, oh, hold on. Let me back up. So they basically use, right, they use a more of a balanced scorecard approach than, let me see if I can highlight this. Boom. And here we get you. So they use more of a balanced card approach. And I don't know, are you familiar? Have you heard of the concept balanced scorecard before? And I don't know, maybe that's how you measure your performance in your own organizations. First time? Okay, so the balanced scorecard is basically a tool. You can look at, I mean, it's a way to measure performance, but it looks at performance from different dimensions. So it doesn't only just look at, let's say, money, right? It looks at, for example, things like customer satisfaction. It looks at process efficiency. It looks at employee development, right? It has a lot of different dimensions to look at performance. And that's when people in the organization look at how are we doing, right? It's not just, for example, oh, we brought this much money last year, right? We were able to get $3 million, which was better than $2 million the year before that. So it's more of a complicated measure. And you can look it up online when you want to see the details of it for profits. There's like 8, 9 dimensions to it. But an organization can create its own performance measures that you believe are most important to you. So for example, in the case of an organization like yours, right, a lot of times you have donors that you need to satisfy. You have communities that you need to satisfy. So your performance measurements are probably going to include different dimensions that we make sure that we hit all this. And this is a different way because most of organizations for a very, very long time have only looked at one thing, right? For example, how much money do I make? That's in the for-profit world. Thank you, Jasper. Yeah, I appreciate it. So hopefully this just gives us a little feel on some of the things that we can think of as we move forward, and feel free, right? I'm going to see you again tomorrow anyway, so we'll talk some more if we need to talk about any of those things again, or dig a little bit deeper. So we're going to do a little poll here. So what do you think? Which characteristic is most important for a high performance organization? Just in your opinion, if you don't mind, write that in the chat for me. Some people prefer to write it directly to me, so you can send the chat to me directly, or you can send it to the entire team, to everyone, and both ways is fine. Most of people usually just share it with everyone, but it's up to you. So here are the dimensions, if you remember that we talked about, the building blocks. Strong leadership. Can you guys, by the way, see my arrow here or no? On my screen, can you see an arrow?
You can see it.
Oh, okay, because I move it around thinking that you can see it, but thank you. Was it Binta? Binta, thank you. So strong leadership, clear vision, employee engagement, continuous improvement and innovation, effective performance measurement. Which one do you think is the dimension that is the most important? All right, I see some coming in. Thank you. This is great. We'll give you another minute so the rest have time to give us their thoughts. All right, we see some votes for strong leadership, some votes for continuous improvement, clear vision and strategy. All right. Another one on clear vision and strategy. There's no grade on this, so don't don't worry. Just put whatever you feel is the most important. Okay, so this is pretty good. We got a good amount of votes. That's great. Let's see, what do we think about the second question that, oh, hold on, we have more coming in. Okay, strong strategy and leadership. All right, yeah, Christian, that's great. Okay, so I have one more poll question for you here. So which area do you think your organization needs to improve on the most to become a high-performance organization? Now, this is a different question. And again, if you want to send it to me privately, please feel free to send it to me privately. I don't know if you know this or not, but on Zoom, in the chat, you can click down on to, and then you can click on a name of a person to send it to. So feel free to do that, or you can send it in public. But in your idea, and again, this is not research. This is not that you did a big survey. This is not that you know everything that is happening within the organization. But from your perspective, which one do you think is the one that we need to work on maybe the most? And again, they all could be excellent, but there could be one dimension that we need to put a little bit more time into. All right, thank you. I'll give you about 70 seconds more. Okay. All right, this is great. Thank you so much. This is fantastic. Oh, there's more coming in. All right, this is great. Yeah, this is very helpful because we're going to have some of those conversations throughout. All right, so I have a little case study for you here that I prepared just to take you a little bit out of your world and put you into a different world. I thought airplanes might be fun. So I was thinking, okay, what would be an interesting, for example, high-performing organization that comes from a for-profit world? And Southwest Airlines in the United States is considered probably the only high-performing airline that we have in the United States. It's an airline that it's mainly focused on the west side of the United States. That is usually where most of their work is. But they are one of the largest low-cost carriers in the world now. I just thought, let's try to apply some of those, those 5 big characteristics that we talked about. Let's, try to apply them to Southwest. And here is what an example looks like. For example, this gentleman here, he was the CEO of Southwest for a long time. He, I think, passed away a year ago or so, if I remember. But his name is Herb Keller, and he was considered as a very strong leader. He also co-founded the company. He was very focused on employee empowerment. So he wanted to build this culture to empower employees and focus on customer service and innovation. Those were his three things. He was obsessed by them. And he had a very unique style of leadership, which really set a tone for a fun, loving culture. So at any one point in time, Southwest will have about 25,000 resumes of people that are applying to try to get in and get a job in Southwest Airlines, because he was able to create this fun, loving culture combined with exceptional customer service. And he did it through a lot of different ways, where, for example, he said things like, we are all equal here. You go to try to check in Southwest Airlines, the only airline where you find a captain who passes by and sees some luggage stuck will jump in and help with the luggage. So then everything is moving more efficiently and faster. So he was able to build this type of culture where we're all equal, we're all trying the best we can to make the customer happy as fast as we can. That was his style. Clear vision. There was always a very, very clear vision and consistent strategy from the very beginning. We are going to be the low-cost carrier. That means we're going to be able to fly our plane from A to B at a lower cost than anybody else is going to be able to do it. That's what we're going to do. And thus we're going to offer better prices for people. So everything they did, from point to point, flights to no assigned seatings. So for example, they had this idea about no assigned seating. You go up, you sit anywhere. Why? Because they found it's faster to fill the plane that way than giving people specific seats. Everything they did supported their strategy. One more, high level of employee engagement, for example, right? Because they had this positive culture, right? They had this high level of employee engagement, right? They really believe that happy employees, right, lead to happy customers. And they always ranked in the top list of top 5 places to work in the country, for example. Continuous improvement. So even though they were focused on being low cost, this does not mean that they were not going to innovate. For example, they were one of the first companies that came up with a website when we had internet and we started building websites. They were the first ones to build it. They were the first one to sell tickets online, right? But guess what? It all ended up helping because it ended up reducing the cost, right? So it all fed into that strategy. Performance measurement. Their metrics always not only included, they used the balanced scorecard. So they not only took care of financial stuff and they measured that, but they also measured customer satisfaction. They measured processes, how are we improving on them, and people metrics. So they had all kinds of different metrics that help them make sure that they can turn around the planes very fast, that the people are happy, the employees and the customers. So this is just a little example here before we go into this interactive activity that I have for you. So what do you think? Any questions on this? All right. So this is going to be our little exercise now. We're going to do it as a team. I'm going to break you up into teams if you don't mind. So this is going to be, you all have my notes, right? So you have this question with you.
Yes, we do
Okay.
have.
So you have it. Perfect.
So they all went out and the notes went out yesterday in an email. So everybody should have that email with the notes.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to put you in a team. And if you don't mind, let's try to have this conversation and have this discussion. Let's identify one area in our organization that we think could be improved, just like we discussed. It's not a big deal which area we choose. Let's just agree on one. And then let's just come up with some brainstorming on how would we do so. And feel free to think through this case that we just did, for example, right? The Southwest case, like that kind of hopefully can give us some ideas and some examples to use. So any questions before I put us in groups?
So Ferris, just to clarify, as a small group, they are choosing which area to look at first, and then deciding what their strategy is, correct? Okay.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
how much
Yeah.
time are you going to give everyone?
We're gonna give you about, so this is my plan. The next session is gonna start around 10:05. So I want to make sure I give you a little bit of a break. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give you about 10 minutes or so to have this discussion. I'm gonna pull you in, wrap up the class, and then in tomorrow's session, we will start by just talking about this activity, and that will lead us directly into the strategy session. Is that okay? Because I don't think today we'll have time to have that discussion together. Does that make sense? All right, thumbs up. Let's put you in groups, and all right, enjoy. Oh, you know what, Amy? I put you and I put you and Sunny in groups. So so maybe I need to redo this. Hold on. Should I redo it?
I think it's okay because
Oh, I just filled it.
yeah, I think if there could be a group of two, right?
Oh, I just killed it. Sorry. We'll do it again.
Okay.
Because I want to give them a group of at least 3 that are not. You know what I mean? Because I just realized once I did that you and Suzanne and Sunny are here, which is fine, but it's nice that they have one more person. Okay.
And Ferris, I put a note that I'm listening in, but I'm not able to participate in a group, so.
Yeah,
just
no
make
problem.
sure you don't put me in, yeah. thanks.
Yeah, no problem. If you join, just ignore. I'll take you up. They're gonna be like, wow, that was really fast.
Well, I'm noticing.
Yeah, we are back and we have already discussed.
Dr. Dr. George, that is amazing speed. You finished so fast.
A light note, we were told to come back. Yeah.
Yes, sorry, I made a mistake. I'm gonna redo this again. I apologize. I made a mistake. So I'm gonna recreate the rooms. Now we have a better setup like this, I think. Yeah, perfect. Okay, I'm gonna recreate. We're gonna do this now. All right, enjoy. This time for sure.
No, I won't join.
So I'm gonna jump into room 4 just to tell them that Suzanne is not gonna be participating, just so they know.
Okay, very good.
All right, so let's see participants.
Like some folks have not joined yet. It may be because they're away from their computer for a moment.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I'm going to have to step away just for a second. I'll be right back.
Gabriel, are you there? Messi, are you there?
Hi, Amy. I just logged in to see.
Hi, Liz.
Hi,
Welcome.
logged in to see how it was going and what time you ended. Looks like you ended already.
No, folks are in small groups right now.
Ah, okay, okay, good.
Yes.
Well, I will, should I just hang out? I just wanted to make sure that we were kind of on schedule and that I should be planning for 10:05, but maybe I'll just hang out in the background so that I know when the break occurs and we can give them a full 10 minutes after you're done. Does that
That
sound
sounds,
okay?
sounds perfect.
Yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. I'm planning to wrap it up, like on time, like we said. So and then we start 10:05.
Okay, all right.
Good
Well, I can
morning,
log out
Liz.
then if you prefer.
Huh?
I can log out.
Oh, no, stay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a problem.
How's
Not
it
a
going
problem.
so far?
Great. So
Yeah.
far it's been, yeah, it's fantastic. We have few more people, I think, than we thought, right, Amy?
Yes. Mhm.
And
I think we have about 24 online right
Oh,
now.
wow. Okay.
Yes, but that includes me and Ferris, and Suzanne has been with us as well.
Okay. Good.
and Sunny is in the background as well. So I put her in one of the groups. I don't know if she's doing with the group or all right, I'm gonna go see one more group. I'll see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you break out the groups based on their own team, or did you break them out randomly?
So I think Ferris broke them out randomly.
Okay.
Yes, and we have different numbers from different RLCs. So
Right.
it would be challenging to do like similar numbers.
Yeah, I was trying to play with what that might look like, and I wondered how you navigated that. So
Right, and I think that you can create breakout rooms that people choose. I haven't done that very often,
yeah.
but so you could do, the different RLC breakout rooms. There are also some USAID staff
Hmm.
who have joined, who I think one in West Africa and one in South Africa. So they work very closely with the RLCs. So they could actually go in that RLC group.
Okay.
And then we have one USAID DC person who is in a supportive role. So conceptually, there could be a USAID group because there are 3 of them.
Yeah. Now, do I have the opportunity to create breakout rooms?
So I need to add you as a host. So let me do that right now.
Okay.
Here we go. All right, are you
Right,
seeing
I
that?
see the option. Yep. Great.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
I might just play with that for just a second. Not affecting the rooms as they
Right,
are.
yes.
Just-
Yes, just to see what the options are.
Yes. Okay, thanks, Amy.
Sure.
Hey, Amy. The conversations are fantastic that are going on.
I bet they are. This is one of those moments where you think, I wish we had more time.
Yes, yes. And
Great that you're gonna be able to follow up tomorrow.
the good news is, yes, I go tomorrow again, so I'll be able to continue.
Mhm.
But the one thing is maybe manually to put teams like groups next time. I think that might be helpful for some people.
Mhm.
But we'll see, because like, for example, one group I have like 5 people, which is like room 1,
Mhm.
very active, but then like room 4 had only had like 2 people for the majority of the, but it's fine. I mean, even the 2 people have been, everybody has been, it's been very active and it's been great. So I'm going to pull them back in so we
Alright.
can end, and then tomorrow we'll continue.
Good.
So now it gives them like 60 seconds to finish up.
And it looks like everyone finally made it back and into a group.
I know, once we're pulling them back out.
Right. And I guess maybe we should just mention that in other sessions, that will be something that's gonna happen, so.
Yeah, this is probably, I don't know, like how the other people are going to do their stuff, but yeah, I think there's going to be some of this, so they'll start getting used to it a little bit.
Yes,
But I'm just going to now end the class fast and give them like a little bit break, so then when Dr. Karam starts, she doesn't get too delayed. All right, welcome back, everyone. I was not able to visit every single group, but I visited, I think, 3 or 4. And it was fantastic to hear the conversations. Thank you so much for engaging in this activity. I just want to mention, this is the type of activities you're going to see happen throughout those workshops. Like, for example, tomorrow on the strategy, we have probably a couple of them. So it will be active and it will be moving along. Tomorrow morning, I will ask you, we will start where we ended today. For now, I want to end class. I want to thank you for giving me all your time and attention. And Dr. Karam will be starting with you at 10:05. So please, you get about 10 minutes break. So enjoy your break and then come back in about 10 minutes. Sounds good? Or 10 minutes exactly.
10 minutes exactly, and feel free just to leave everything open. So just, unmuted, and then we'll get started in 10 minutes again.
Thank you all.
And
Thank you.
Paris.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.